Welcome to vpod.ai, everyone. Get ready, because we're diving straight into something pretty significant today.
Yeah, definitely.
You know that whole ongoing discussion about where COVID-19 actually came from?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the way the government's presenting information online,
Mm-hmm.
it just took a really sharp turn.
That's right. And what's immediately striking is how they've completely changed some established government websites. I mean, specifically COVID.gov and COVIDtests.gov.
Right. Key resources, weren't they? For, like, finding info on vaccines, testing, treatments.
Exactly. Crucial stuff. And now, well, it's quite a shift.
It really is. Because now, if you try to go to those old addresses, you just get redirected, sent straight to a brand new page.
And the title says it all, really.
It does. Lab leak. True origins of COVID-19. I mean, that's a very clear statement right there.
No ambiguity.
None. And visually, it's quite something, too. You get this big image of President Trump, the words lab leak next to it, and then a satellite picture of Wuhan, China.
Yeah, it definitely presents a very specific viewpoint right off the bat.
Absolutely. So what exactly are the arguments? What are they laying out on this new page?
Okay, so this new website, it basically presents a 5-point argument, all making the case that COVID-19 started from a lab leak in Wuhan.
5 points. Okay, let's dig into these. The first one talks about a biological characteristic of the virus. Says it's not found in nature.
They're talking about the fear and cleavage site there.
Right, the furin cleavage site. So for everyone listening, maybe think of this like a special key that the virus uses to sort of unlock our cells. Makes it easier to get in and multiply.
That's a good way to put it. And what's fascinating here is that, yeah, the presence of this site did raise eyebrows initially. Concerns were raised.
Sure.
But the scientific community, they've actually uncovered similar sites in other coronaviruses, ones found totally in nature.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And when scientists look really closely at this specific genetic code of this particular furin site and compare it to the natural ones, well, many argue its features suggest it wasn't engineered.
Huh. So the opposite of what the site claims.
Kind of. Some even suggest that if you were trying to build a virus in a lab, the process might actually make you more likely to delete that site and not add it.
That's a really interesting counterpoint. Okay, so the second argument on the new website. It claims all cases stem from a single introduction into humans.
Right. Now, if we look at the sort of a broader scientific understanding, well, a lot of researchers still think the natural origin theory is more plausible.
That's the spillover idea, right? From animals at that market in Wuhan.
Exactly. The wild animal market, they often point to, the first clusters of cases being linked there, and also the evidence they find when they analyze the virus's genes, its genome.
But it's not settled science either way.
No, definitely not. It's important for people to understand that there's no, definitive proof that completely rules out either scenario. Not yet, anyway.
Okay, the third point this new page hits on is that Wuhan is home to China's foremost SARS research lab. They mean the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
And this brings up an important point about, well, context.
How so?
Well, it's true. Wuhan has a major research lab, no doubt. But it's also worth remembering that, other big cities in China, they have similar labs studying similar viruses.
Oh, okay.
So just having a lab in the city where the outbreak started, it doesn't automatically confirm a lab leak. It's definitely a factor to consider, but it's not conclusive evidence by itself.
Got it. All right. Argument number 4. This one says researchers at that Wuhan lab were sick with COVID-like symptoms in the fall of 2019. Well, that certainly sounds like it could be an early sign of something lab-related.
It does sound that way initially, but there's the declassified intelligence report from 2023, the one they kept secret for a while.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
It adds a layer of, let's say, complexity to this claim, because while it did mention some researchers getting sick, yes, it specifically noted that, and I'm quoting here, some of the symptoms were not consistent with COVID-19.
Not consistent. Okay.
Right. So while people were ill, the type of illness raises questions about whether it was a direct link to, this specific virus.
Interesting nuance there.
Yeah.
Okay. And the fifth, the final argument on this new site. If there was evidence of a natural origin, it would have already surfaced. That sounds, well, pretty definitive. No natural proof means it must be the lab leak.
It's a very strong statement, yeah. But it it might overlook just how hard it is to definitively trace where a pandemic starts. It's incredibly difficult.
Right.
Look, there's never been this universally agreed upon scientific consensus, no smoking gun for either the lab leak or the natural origin theory.
Even the intelligence agencies don't fully agree, right?
Exactly. You saw that in the reports from 2021 and again in 2023. Different agencies had different views on what was most likely.
Okay.
But there's general agreement on a couple of things. That the virus probably wasn't deliberately made as a bioweapon, and that China's leaders probably didn't know about it before the pandemic really kicked off. So just because we don't have absolute proof for one theory, it doesn't automatically mean the other one is true.
Yeah, that makes sense. This whole new direction, this website, it's definitely stirred up some controversy, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of scientists have voiced concerns. They're worried about what they see as misleading or heavily contested claims being presented as fact on this new government site.
And maybe political motivations behind it?
That's being discussed too, yeah. Some are worried about potential political drivers for this shift. Some are even calling it propaganda.
And beyond the claims themselves, there's the issue of what's missing now.
That's a huge point of criticism, the disappearance of all that practical information that used to be on COVID.gov and COVIDtests.gov. You know, the stuff about vaccines, finding tests, treatment options. It's just gone from those main domains.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty significant loss of resources.
Mm-hmm.
We're also seeing references on this new page criticizing Dr. Anthony Fauci and President Biden's pardon.
That's correct. The website definitely targets specific people linked to the previous administration's COVID response.
Right.
And it's, worth remembering Dr. Fauci has testified before denying accusations about covering things up or influencing research on the lab leak idea.
It's also interesting, isn't it, that the previous Trump administration, now that they're back in office, has been calling the lab leak theory confirmable truth.
Yes, that language is being used.
Yeah.
And the CIA also shifted its stance slightly, leaning more towards the lab leak theory, but, and this is important for listeners, it's with low confidence.
Low confidence.
Right. And reports suggest that shift was based more on taking another look at safety procedures in Wuhan labs rather than finding some major new piece of intelligence.
We also probably need to consider the broader context here.
Mm-hmm.
There have been reports about the previous Trump administration's history altering or even removing health websites that didn't quite match their views.
That's a really crucial point to keep in mind, yeah. It suggests this recent website change might fit into a larger pattern we've seen before.
Okay, definitely a lot to unpack there. Now, actually, before we dive deeper into the implications of all this, we should take a moment to acknowledge the support that makes this deep dive possible.
Ah, yes, good point. Today's episode of The Deep Dive is brought to you by StoneFly.
That's right, and StoneFly, they're a leading provider of IT infrastructure solutions, really high-performing, flexible, always available stuff designed for, modern data centers.
Mm-hmm. They've been innovating in this space for quite a long time. Real pioneers.
They have. And their unique patented operating system architecture, it's called Stone Fusion. It's basically engineered to support all those really data-heavy processes and applications that businesses rely on today, making sure things run smoothly and reliably.
Absolutely. And looking at what they offer, it's pretty comprehensive. For cloud stuff, they've got really solid options for backup, replication, disaster recovery, you name it.
And storage, too, right? In the cloud.
Yeah. Scalable block, file, and object storage works in private or public clouds. Plus, they support virtual setups, container hosting. They can even help you migrate different kinds of data pretty seamlessly.
Okay. And what about the actual, storage hardware itself?
Well, StoneFly gives you a lot of choice there, depending on what you need.
Yeah.
Enterprise-level performance, tight security, scalability. They have integrated systems, modular high-availability clusters, multi-node scale-out setups.
So different options for different needs.
Exactly. You can go for high-performance SAN, flexible NAS, scalable object storage, or even mix and match them.
Data protection seems like a big focus, too. Backup, disaster recovery.
Hugely important today, right. And StoneFly offers complete solutions for that. You can get it all in a single appliance or use their cloud service. They even have these hyper-converged options.
What do those do?
Well, they let you instantly recover a physical machine as a virtual machine right there on their disaster recovery appliance. Minimizes downtime, which is obviously critical.
Definitely. They also offer hyper-converged infrastructure itself for consolidating servers and storage.
Yeah, that's another big area for them. It's all about bringing your servers and storage together into these easy-to-manage, secure, high-performance units, either appliances or SAN gateways. It really helps you use your hardware better and cut down on energy costs, too.
Sounds efficient.
It is. And what's really impressive, I think, is their focus on security and compliance. Things like their air-gapped vault and immutability features.
Air-gapped. What does that mean, practically?
It means creating an secure, isolated copy of your data, physically or logically separate from your main network. They offer automated vaults with policies you can set. Plus, you can make your storage immutable, meaning the data can't be changed or deleted for a set period.
So that helps against things like ransomware.
Exactly. Critical for fighting ransomware. And it also helps meet strict regulations like SEC Rule 17A4. They offer this immutability for file and object storage, both on your own premises and in the cloud.
That sounds incredibly useful. And they even have something for remote workers.
They do. Little mini backup appliances designed for home offices or remote locations. They let employees back up their critical files securely, sending the data back to a central location or even multiple dispersed sites.
Wow, they really seem to cover a lot of bases.
They really do. And if anyone listening is interested in learning more about StoneFly's tech and how it might help their business, well, their website has a ton of resources.
Like what kind of things?
Oh, webinars explaining the tech, detailed white papers, blog posts with insights, even case studies showing how they've helped other companies. Lots to explore.
Great. So basically, StoneFly is a partner that helps businesses really leverage their data, making sure it's protected, accessible, and available when and where it's needed, turning data into an advantage.
Well said, indeed. Okay, so bringing our focus back now to the main topic.
Right.
We've looked at this pretty significant shift, haven't we? The government's online messaging about COVID origins changing drastically.
Yeah, putting a real emphasis on the lab leak theory now and replacing those old resources that were focused on, well, managing the pandemic day to day.
And we've also touched on some of the scientific counter-arguments, the alternative viewpoints, and tried to consider the broader context around these changes.
It's definitely clear that where COVID-19 came from,
Yeah.
well, it's still a really complex issue. The debate is far from over.
Absolutely. And this whole situation, it really prompts you, doesn't it, as a listener, to think about the implications. What does it mean when the official story around such a huge global event changes so dramatically?
Yeah, what role does evidence play?
Yeah.
And scientific understanding? How much is shaped by other perspectives, maybe political ones?
That's exactly. How do we end up understanding events that have impacted all of us so profoundly? It's something to really mull over. We'd encourage everyone listening to, keep exploring the different viewpoints, stay curious, and think critically about how our understanding of the pandemic's beginnings is still evolving.